Many wish for peace, yet forget the brutality of sacrifice.
The Blood, Sweat, and Tears cinematic is actually the prologue to the book Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf. The battle, the sacrifice, Kindred's realm, Rockrun, and Mel's power. This is the hidden story behind Ambessa Medarda's greatest trial. Now I'm only going to go through the prologue, that's all I've read so far, so there won't be any spoilers beyond that. I stopped reading intentionally so I can do this video connecting it back to the Blood, Sweat, and Tears cinematic, because I just think it's awesome. But I'll be continuing on to chapter 1 the day this video goes live.
Noxus prizes strength above all else, defining it by 3 core principles. Vision, the top of the triangle. Might, bending your environment to your will. Guile, phantoms, tricksters, mages, absent honor. I've discovered a 4th principle, one that heightens all others. Sacrifice.
The war that we see in the beginning of this cinematic is between the Raxi tribes who refused to join the Noxian Empire at its founding. They were eventually conquered and the Medardas ruled it for centuries. Though they dwelt in the mountains, the Raxi put their name to a claim as well, and decided they would solve the dispute, though they would, as Noxians did. Rockrun was Ambessa's home. Her second child would not be born outside its walls, even if she had to fight through an entire army to make it so. So we now know that the child Ambessa is carrying at this point is Mel. That's important, and that this beach we see in the Blood, Sweat, and Tears cinematic and bite marks where Mel lands is Rockrun. During the battle while Ambessa was engaged in a fight, she was hit with 2 bolts from a crossbow. And Ambessa's first thought goes to her baby. She falls to the ground, and Ambessa fights to stay awake as her vision narrowed. But the world around her was closing off, fading to blackness. Beside her, the woman she had killed stared up at the gray sky, like Ambessa would soon. Then, instead of the woman, she saw a wolf, its muzzle low to the ground as it studied her, a harbinger of Kindred. It came for her. Now note, the cinematic actually flashes back and forth between different events. It doesn't follow the actual order as the book does. So we will follow the book and not the cinematic, but I will show you scenes from the cinematic in the order of the book. First, Rockrun, the wolf's realm. Ambessa steps through the darkness, and she is no longer on the battlefield she left. She watches herself apart from herself, watches this other Ambessa dancing in a room full of others, lost in the feel of her body, of its strength, its beauty, its hungers, and the beautiful hunger of those around her. This is what the body is for. This is what she is. Her feet carry her closer. She wants to join them. She reached her hand out. No, this is not why she is here. Some part of her knows this. She feels a pang of loss. Rockrun, where the wolf takes great warriors after death. Now that is massive. We now know that Rockrun is a death realm run by Kindred, and with the recent expansion on Mordekaiser lore, we know of another death realm, Rockrun, which is where he goes. You would think Kindred would want to claim someone like Sanuzal as well, but I have a theory which I talk about in my deep dive to the Sanuzal cinematic, that the Immortal Bastion is a conduit for souls that Sanuzal and later Mordekaiser was manipulated into building, to siphon souls into Rockrun, which is run by something else, not Kindred. Now it seems that only Noxians go to Rockrun, so I think there's a range to the effect of the Immortal Bastion, and Rockrun is perhaps out of that range, which is why Ambessa ends up in Rockrun and not Rockrun, where Mordekaiser would be at this time. Let's continue. She sees a throne. She knows she will find her purpose if she can reach it, so she begins climbing towards it, but is interrupted by another scene. This one, a young Ambessa, a child holding a lamb in her arms. She can't remember ever having carried a lamb like this, and yet there is something familiar. She is so young, so innocent, she weeps for it, this gap within her like a socket of a tooth. When she turns away from this scene, she sees the throne again. It is closer, but she still cannot see the figure who sits upon it. So Ambessa is climbing to this throne, and she is being interrupted over and over again by these visions of herself, moments she recognizes and moments she does not. Some scenes from the book that we don't see in the cinematic are a young Ambessa on the battlefield holding a dead woman's sword, Ambessa and Azizi with their first child on her lap holding Kino against her breast. And now we know the name of her husband, Azizi, and it says their first child, that means Azizi is Mel's dad. An older Ambessa in a great chair with a young woman and young man at either side. Ambessa and that same young woman standing opposed, each ready to attack the other. An entire life lived and unlived that she must pass by. Ambessa pulls herself away from the images of her past and of futures not to come. They will not come, they cannot come, because she is dead. She cranes her neck up and sees herself on the throne. She takes the first step toward the dais and her bare foot sticks. Kindred tells her, "You must earn the right." Now this isn't the normal Kindred most people think of. This is the Kindred, both the lamb and the wolf. They're not separate, but one. In Kindred lore, we do have this teaser which says that they kind of split themselves in two.
There was once a pale man with dark hair who was very lonely.
Why was it lonely?
All things must meet this man, so they shunned him.
Did he chase them all?
He took an axe and split himself in two,
So he would always have a friend.
so he would always have a friend.
Who knows how this is done? Are they still two but one entity? Is this before they split? Not really sure. But Kindred in twin voices says to Ambessa, "You have earned your place in Rockrun, but have you earned your place in legend?" They hold out a trinket, a three-headed wolf that floats. Ambessa reaches for it, but with a gesture, Kindred pulls it out of her reach. "You must face your trials." Suddenly, Ambessa is in a great arena surrounded. She hears the shift of metal behind her. A great warrior with a golden shield stands before her. Now this does look like Pantheon, but Pantheon is alive. If you don't know his story, I'd recommend my video titled The Greatest Warrior of Runeterra. This could be one of two things. Either a shadow, a reflection of Pantheon who came to Rockrun as well, or this is the god Pantheon, the one that took over Atreus' body, the real god of war, who was killed by the darkened Aatrox, leaving Atreus, who is today referred to as the Pantheon Reborn, in the current Pantheon on Runeterra. They're fighting, and Ambessa dodges his spear and strikes again and again. Each blow met with a parry, each parry a counter-strike. The shield cracks his helm against her face, and she staggers back. Another blow from the shield's spear, and she rolls beneath it. Belatedly, she realizes that her stomach is small enough to roll. Where is her child? There is no time to ponder that either. She leaps into the air to strike him from above. Like lightning from the sky, he catches her and throws her down like thunder. Her blade skitters out of her hand. Now one interesting thing is that she keeps hearing her grandfather Menelik say things like "get up" whenever she gets knocked down. There are other warriors watching this fight between Ambessa and the shield. I think her grandfather Menelik may be among them. If later in the book it confirms he passed away, then I think it's possible. Now look at this. She pushes herself up again. She picks up the half-moon blade. She rises to her knee. Every wound she has ever had is open now, bleeding afresh as the shield approaches, flanked by more warriors. An assassin with her twin red daggers and her golden breastplate. A rigid man with a whispering arm and a cloak of black raven feathers. His gold paulders gleaming. And more and more and more. They come for her. She is not done. She stands. She faces them. With a nod that Ambessa can only interpret as respect, the shield lowers his weapon. His golden shield retracts. So here we have Pantheon standing at the front with Swain and Katarina behind him. We know it's Swain and Katarina because those are literally skins that they got in game.
Try harder! Blood for Noxus! Blood for blood!
But that would mean that Swain is already fused with Rom, since that's what happens. But we do kind of see events from the future and from the past all coalescing in Rockrun, so this could be a future Swain. All of these people are alive in the current lore. I think time works differently in Rockrun, and all of these people end up being in this Great Warrior collection. You have Swain, Katarina, and Pantheon. Although they're alive currently in Runeterra, time works differently in Rockrun, and so they're also in this group. And we learn exactly what this group is at the end. And you're probably wondering about the red lines on all of them. These are their scars from their mortal lives. You can see them on Ambessa too, and she says every wound she has ever had is open. This is why they look like that. Ambessa then takes a step towards them, and then it flashes her back to the throne room. And that step is actually another step up the staircase toward the throne. So every trial that she's passing, she's taking another step in this dark room with the throne overhead, with Kindred at the top. Now this next trial is very important. Remember what Ambessa says in Arcane. What is the fourth Noxian principle?
I've discovered a fourth principle. One that heightens all others. Sacrifice.
Kindred tells her, you will shed the blood of others, but what of yours, your own, your heart? Will you sacrifice? And right after that, Ambessa finds herself in a desert holding a lamb she saw herself as a child carry. There is no space for her except for the space they make, so she steps into it, going where they lead. Above her, drummers in the sky beat the rhythm of her steps. In her arms, she cradles a golden lamb. The words come to her, and she clutches the lamb ever tighter. Let it go. No, she whispers, shaking her head. The shrieking mourners in their robes press closer and closer until Ambessa falls to her knees. How is she supposed to let it go? It is a part of her, it is hers, though it is a thing of metal. Its wide, dark eyes are warm and welcoming. It needs to be protected. But the echo of Kindred's last question comes back to her. Sacrifice. Ambessa holds the lamb up and releases it. It floats upward and immediately she wishes she had not. The lamb rises above her, above them all. It is out of reach now. She will never get it back. The sun burns hotter against Ambessa's skin. The white wraps she wears do not protect her. The dancing guides grow more frantic, encircling her. The drumming drowns out her heartbeat. The wailing, open mouths smother her own cries. The lamb rises to the mouth of the many-headed wolf. She remembers his wolf. The token, spinning before Kindred, offered to her. The lamb will be devoured if she does not save it. Let it go. But I can't, she thinks. You must. Then the lamb is no more, and the many heads of the wolf bare their teeth. And she screams for the lamb as it is devoured. Screams like those who mourn her, raking her nails across her own face, drawing blood. But she does not care. Something is gone. Something is gone. All she has known. Sacrifice, say the twinning voices of Kindred. Ambessa is back in the dark hall of Rockrun before Kindred, and they offer her all that she wants most. Ambessa screams as Kindred's light passes through her, and she understands what they are truly offering her for the first time. A possibility, a future. She sits upon the stone throne with a sword at her side. This is her destiny. If she goes back, she can take it. Or she can die. She can take her place here in the realm of heroes. She can stand in the arena beside the shield, dressed in the armor of a legend, her leonine mask in gold, her hair flowing white, billowing mane, a golden torque at her neck. These warriors would follow her, and she would lead them on the hunt of champions, the hunt of the chosen. Now that's really important. She's going to be leading these warriors on the hunt of champions, the hunt of Trojans, basically to go out and recruit more warriors for this group. But why is Kindred building this army of great warriors, right? Now this is going to be just because my mind is still on Mitten Rockrun, where we know Sanuzal goes, and I still believe that he's being manipulated into sending more souls there, and someone's actually controlling that realm. If I were Kindred, I'd be pretty pissed if someone were stealing souls that should be coming to me. Perhaps she's building this army to fight whatever's manipulating Sanuzal into building the Immortal Bastion to siphon souls to Mitten Rockrun. I still think it's Ram, and I don't think Ram is the demon of secrets. I think Ram is the demon of deception, and that's his realm that he's siphoning souls towards. If I were Kindred, I'd be pretty pissed. So maybe she's building up this army of the greatest warriors across runeterra to fight it. I don't know. There's no way she's not building it for a reason, just to collect them and store them on a shelf. But back to the story. It is what she always wanted, to die a wolf's death, to be worthy of Rockrun. And here it is, offered, earned. She will ride with them. A throb pulses in her stomach. Heat. In this land of heroes, her stomach is flat. That is not right. Forever with those who passed the wolf's tests. Light, white light, and with a pulse comes a cramping spasm. Her victory is already certain, here in Rockrun. Now this is the really interesting part, because in the cinematic you're looking at Mel, and the power doesn't seem to just stop with Ambessa. As the energy of Rockrun surges through her, it reaches her unborn child. We know this is Mel. I am pretty confident this is where Mel's power comes from. And this is why Ambessa tells Mel when she's dying,
You are the wolf.
It's kind of twofold. One, she's always preaching to Mel about the wolf and sacrifice and the fourth Noxian principle, all these things that she learned then.
Mark me, child. If you want to last in this world, you must learn to be both the fox and the wolf.
But then she also tells Mel when she dies, you are the wolf. And it turns out that Mel's power most likely came from Kindred, and we're seeing this in this moment. When this power is surging through Ambessa, it reaches to the material plane. You can see Mel's eyes light up in the womb. The story ends with, Ambessa woke with a gasp from a beautiful, terrible dream. In the distance, she thought she saw a wolf's trail vanish into the fog creeping up the beach. At another agonizing spasm, she reached for her belly. A contraction. She found the crossbow bolt that had taken her. Killed me. She felt for the edges of the arrowhead. It was deep, but she did not think it was barbed. The echo of the dream gave her strength to grit her teeth against the pain, and she pulled it over with a growling groan. With an effort, Ambessa pushed herself to her feet. She supported her belly with one hand, pressed down on her wound with the other, and picked her way across the bodies littered on the rocky beach. The sea's roar had died with the end of the battle. She could barely tell who won. The fallen on both sides were mixed together, but the citadel's walls still stood. She looked back over her shoulder for any sign of the wolf she was sure had been there. Her dream had been too vivid to be only a dream. So much of it was hazy now, but she remembered one thing. She sat atop a black throne, atop a mountain of what? Stones? Bodies? She didn't know, but she knew she had earned her seat with blood. The blood of her own body, the blood of those who stood in her way. The wolf had given her this gift, but she had felt a promise in it. It is yours, if you can take it.
You'd give me a throne?
I will give you the world, child, if you prove you can take it.
So what do you think? Is Mel Medarda truly connected to Kindred's power? Ambessa does tell Mel when she dies, you are the wolf. Was this the moment that really decided pretty much all of Mel's future, where she gained this power, this ability to be an empath?
An empath, attuned to the ethereal, able to sense others' inner selves and bend their magic. A conduit and a mirror.
Was this the moment that made Mel who she is today? And what does that say about Kindred's power? Perhaps these are mirrors of their former and future selves. And Ambessa's near-death experience allowed Kindred to make a copy of Ambessa. Swain has a near-death experience in Ionia where he loses his arm. Perhaps Katarina will have one too. And we know Pantheon has his when his body is being controlled by the true god of war against the darkened Aatrox. If my theory is true and that Midna Rockrun is run by the demon Rom, who I don't think is the demon of secrets but the demon of deception, who deceived Sanuzal into building the first structure and later Mordekaiser into building it even stronger later, a demon who fused with Swain in what way we don't really know. After all, when Neela, who's also inhabited by a demon, if you don't know a lot about the demons, I recommend my Demons of Runeterra video, but Neela is also fused with a demon, the demon of joy, Ashlesh, who's actually one of the 10 kings. Comes across Swain in game, she tells him,
We are not alike, Joker Swain. I know the price I paid.
further showing that perhaps Swain has been manipulated a little bit as well. And in the bite mark cinematic, we literally see Mel plowing her way towards what? The Immortal Bastion, with a red glow glowing from it, which we know that the deepest, darkest thing within the Immortal Bastion is Rom. Perhaps Kindred is playing 4D chess and Mel is another piece on their board to attack this demon in the material realm, while they assemble this group of gods to attack Midna Rockrun. And then if we had an expansion, just saying, Riot MMO, if we ever had an expansion where we need to go into Midna Rockrun and attack and face Mordekaiser and whatever dark secrets are there, which I do think Immortal Bastion is siphoning souls there and that we have to deal with that eventually, we'd probably want Kindred and these greatest warriors of Runeterra from the past and future on our side. But what do you think? I really feel like all of these cinematics have a reason. Like, I understand Mel charging her way toward the Immortal Bastion looked cool, but I think it's for a reason. That flash of yellow in Mel's eyes while she's in the womb, then the fact that Mel's power comes from Kindred, and it's called out as almost like a mirror, and we're seeing these reflections of warriors from Runeterra, I feel like it makes sense. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe for future Runeterra lore videos. Sharing the video really does go a long way. Massive, massive shout out to those who joined the channel. It means a lot to me. Thanks for stopping by the Grove, and I will see you in the next one.